Hello, hello, welcome back, welcome back, welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. So, in this video, we are going to be looking at the High Priestess Tarot card, which is the second, really the third, but as far as numerical order is concerned, it is card number 2, the High Priestess. And again, this is the tarot of the new vision, which shows you, rather than the onlooker's perspective, it shows you what it would be like to be standing behind the scene, which is kind of cool. So we'll start out looking at this card, and you can see some of the symbolism on this card is a little bit different. So you've got a figure in white over here, you've got a figure in black over here, you've got this little owl perched on a pomegranate in the foreground, and then you've got the back of the High Priestess here and the moon. So the High Priestess card is connected to the moon specifically, and not as much some of the other correspondences. Now, the duality of the two pillars, Boaz and Joaquin, are reflected in this card. There's also the idea that the High Priestess has a lot of secrets. The owl is here reflecting knowledge. And on a lot of cards, the background actually has a lot of pomegranates on it. And sometimes pomegranates are used to represent the Sephirot in the tree of life. So, a reflection of that knowledge as well. And the High Priestess card is the path of Gimel, which transverses Da'at, or the void, in the tree of life. Let's look at the golden Art Nouveau tarot, which is very gilded and beautiful. Oh, lucky day. She's right there. So, in this tarot card, you can see a lot of times the moon is kind of here in the folds of her garment. You see in the background that pomegranate motif on the fabric drapery behind her. You see the two pillars representing light and darkness, mercy and severity. She's wearing this headdress, which is particular to the moon, but is also similar to, in ancient Egyptian symbolism, a lot of times, goddesses like Hathor or Isis would wear a similar type of headdress. So very much having to do with that energy as well. She has this scroll in her lap, which on it says Torah. Is a scroll of the truth. This is representative of the Akashic records as well. So all of the knowledge possessed by mankind, and even some things that we don't know about yet. And we can see some of the differences already between these two cards. We'll look at the Initiatory Tarot of the Golden Dawn. And the High Priestess in this deck is very different. So, on this card, you can see that she has this chalice that she is holding in front of her face, representing the water energy that's very linked to the moon. And she's holding it there in the air without actually touching it. She also has echoes of the element of fire here at her feet, the element of air kind of encompassing her, and she is standing on the ground, presumably also including the element of earth. Again, she's got this little moon on her brow, and interestingly enough about this card is that this High Priestess is depicted as having very white hair, right? So could be seen as being quite a bit older and possibly wiser because of her age. And again, this is a very feminine energy, has a lot to do with moon cycles, has a lot to do also with hidden knowledge, and using that hidden knowledge to get what you desire, to obtain things that you want. And the last deck that I'll be using for this series is the Cosmic Tarot. I tried to select decks that had similarities to the Rider-Waite-Smith symbolism, because that's used in a lot of tarot decks. But also choose decks that have a lot of differences as well, so that you can explore the symbols in different contexts. So again, she has a yin-yang on her brow, but again, very representative of the moon. The crescent here is kind of the way that she's depicted, again, like the magician card from this deck, is a little bit more abstract. So you can see the sky and the ocean here. The way that the moon pulls the tides is inferred. Her body here is inferred. The book could be seen as being open on her lap, even though it's not exactly depicted that way. Here you do see Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end, represented in the book. The book is open in this case, whereas on this other card, the edge of this scroll has come unfurled, but for the most part, this knowledge is still tightly under wraps. When you look at book symbolism in the Lenormand, depending on which Lenormand deck you're using, whether the book is open or closed, it sometimes can be interpreted to be knowledge or secrets. So you could look at these differences between the High Priestess in a very similar way. So first we will look at the Initiatory Tarot. Go ahead and just look at the card for a minute. I'm going to pull a couple more cards and we'll do a 3-card reading around this card. Kind of look at it in the context of how you would be reading it. So, I have this deck here. Just kind of think of that energy. What kind of meanings the symbols have to you, specifically. And the cards that I have pulled to go along with the High Priestess in the upright, we have the Sun, and we also have the Prince of Swords in the reverse. Now, the Prince of Swords in this deck does not equate to the Knights. The Prince of Swords in this particular deck equates to the King of Swords in other decks. And the symbolism here is based on Golden Dawn correspondences. So again, it's kind of like the King, but then there are also some differences too. We have the High Priestess, so we have this knowledge, we have secrets, we have the Sun. The Sun is always good, always, even if it's in the reverse. The Sun means better days are ahead. In the case of the High Priestess coming out with this Prince of Swords in the reverse, the Prince of Swords has not only a sword, but also a scythe for cutting things out. So it could be that because of knowledge that you have, You cut things out of your life, and it makes you much happier in the long run. Alright, so now we're going to pretend that we've drawn this card, but we have pulled the High Priestess in the reverse. So now we're seeing the fire energy carried by air downward. The earth is now up here. She's been inverted. Just like secrets can be inverted to reveal the truth. And we'll pull a couple of cards here. I have the Eight of Pentacles here, and I have the Seven of Wands. Now, in this deck, the Eight of Pentacles has a slightly different meaning, whereas in a lot of decks, the Eight of Pentacles is a card about career-type work situations. The Eight of Pentacles in the Initiatory Tarot is a warning against danger, such as treading upon this snake. We also have here the Seven of Wands. Now, in this deck, you can see that this man is bound. But a lot of times, the Seven of Wands card has to do with fending off danger from all sides. Because both of these cards are paired with the High Priestess in the reverse, you could look at it as a warning that people are gossiping about you behind your back, and it could be damaging your reputation or causing things to be more difficult for you than they would be if the truth were coming out. Alright, so next let's look at the Cosmic Tarot, High Priestess in the upright. And again, just take a moment to observe her imagery. Anything that you really like about the card. And also things that you notice that you feel like are a little bit off to you, that don't resonate with your energy. Notice those as well. Just kind of take in her energy for a moment. Alright, I'm going to pull from this deck a couple of cards. So, the two cards that I've pulled are both major arcana cards. We've got the Hanged Man and the Wheel of Fortune in the reverse. The Hanged Man is elemental water. Just water. And to some extent, the correspondences that go along with the element of water, but primarily water. Now, the High Priestess, being tied to the moon, has a very similar energy to the Hanged Man. And if you're looking at it in terms of spiritual development, you've got all of these secrets this knowing, hidden knowledge. And you've got the Hanged Man, who, in some ways, and in some studies of thought, is seeking to gain that knowledge. So there are a couple of cards that are seeking to gain knowledge. You've got the Hanged Man, you've got the Hermit. The High Priestess has that knowledge. And then also, to some extent, the Hierophant also has that knowledge. But the Hierophant's knowledge is much more oriented toward maintenance of the status quo and how to keep everything flowing smoothly. Now, the difference between the Hermit and the Hanged Man is that the Hanged Man is making a sacrifice in order to gain this knowledge. And because we have between the two the Wheel of Fortune in the reverse, right? That shows me that there could be a reversal of your fortune that teaches you an important lesson and opens your eyes to a lot of hidden knowledge. So now, let's imagine that this High Priestess card has come out in the reverse. Look how drastically that changes everything. Now the moon is up in the sky, and the sun is down here next to the earth, and the water is potentially raining down. And I've pulled a couple cards. We have the Five of Wands in the upright. And the Ten of Pentacles, also upright. The Five of Wands is a really interesting card. So, if you see these two men are in hand-to-hand combat, this guy could definitely pick up this wand here and use it to club this guy over the head. But this is more like sparring. This is not like it's not like they're trying to kill each other, necessarily. And we have this Ten of Pentacles over here. Gosh, I'm sorry. My stomach is really making a lot of noise. I apologize. We have this Ten of Pentacles over here, which is the pinnacle of success, financially speaking, and in business. It could be that you're in a situation where there's a lot of rivalries and infighting that have the potential to lead to this great reward. The High Priestess in the reverse here could be letting you know that you don't have all of the information that you need to be effective enough to reach this goal. She could also be a warning about talking behind others' backs to try and manipulate situations. But she could also be some guidance as far as holding your tongue and not revealing trade secrets that separate your business from everyone else's. All right, let's look at the Golden Art Nouveau Tarot. So here we have our High Priestess. I did also find out that pomegranates are one of the 7 crops of Israel. So there's a lot of symbolism in Judaism that has to do with pomegranates. Let's pull a couple of cards here and see how they might have something to do with the High Priestess. We have the Ten of Swords in the reverse, and we also have the Page of Wands in the reverse. So the Page of Wands can be a beginning or a start to some kind of creative project. The Page could also be the Princess, and the Princesses are a lower vibrational version of the Queen of Wands. So whereas the Queen of Wands is about being self-confident and putting yourself out there, in the reverse, she can be about catty behavior. So the Page of Wands can have to do with that as well. Maybe. This Ten of Swords in the reverse. This could be an ending that has happened in the past. So that because you had this kind of totally final ending, a painful ending to a situation, you now have knowledge that you didn't have before. This Page of Wands, too, can represent someone who is a fire sign. So it could be that this person was not a good person for you to have around you, or you could have had a falling out with this person and there been a painful ending, but that the situation taught you a lot. And now I'm going to pretend that I've drawn this card in the reverse. And you can look at how the symbolism changes slightly. Again, we have the moon now is up nearer the sky. How about the scroll? She has it kind of tucked under her arm. So it's not really in any danger of falling out of her grasp, even though the card is reversed. Let's pull a couple of cards and see how they might relate. So we have the Queen of Swords in the reverse. This could be a very sharp-tongued person. The Queen of Swords is somebody who's not afraid to speak the truth and not afraid to behead someone to get what she desires. Now, in the reverse like this, the Queen of Swords can also be a very unscrupulous person. And if she's the one holding this hidden knowledge, there could absolutely be treachery afoot. I also got, as part of this reading, the Eight of Cups in the upright. This might be a situation where it's best for you to walk away, even though, as you can see in the foreground, all of these cups are upright, not a drop has been spilled. Sometimes it's better to quit while you're ahead. So finally we have the Tarot of the New Vision. And again, just take a moment to absorb the imagery that's present on this card. We have the owl now in the foreground on top of the pomegranate. We've got the two figures on either side representing mercy and severity, light and dark, any kind of polar opposites. Let's pull a couple of cards here. So, along with the High Priestess, I've got the Six of Wands, which is about victory, and I have the Emperor card here as well. It's very unusual to have the High Priestess and the Emperor energy coming together like this. But the High Priestess does often act as an advisor to the Emperor. So, there could be, in order to bring you victory and to ensure your authority, you may have taken some kind of guidance or sought some kind of advice from a figure like the High Priestess. Someone who maybe was an oracle or even a tarot reader. Let's see what it would be like if we pulled this card in the reverse. We've got the owl up here, hanging now from that pomegranate, which is in danger of falling. We have on this card now, the moon is closer to the bottom of the card. And while you can see the shore out there behind her against the night sky, now it's in danger of raining down. So in this case, okay, I have the moon coming out in the upright. And as you can see, in this case, there's somebody who is approaching, whereas usually the field of the moon is taken up by these figures that are here in the foreground. One thing that's similar between the moon and the High Priestess card is the presence of these columns, which represent duality. So you can tell, especially because the moon is the energy of the High Priestess card. Well, the energy of the moon card is Pisces, the astrological sign of Pisces. But these two energies tied together, and especially with the High Priestess showing up in the reverse, there could definitely be treachery afoot, and certainly many things which are not readily apparent at this time. The other card I drew was the Three of Cups, and that is also in the reverse. Now, the Three of Cups has to do with close companionship. So whereas the Two of Cups is often about a romantic relationship, the Three of Cups can be about very tight-knit friend groups in which you share a lot of secrets with each other. And combined with the other two cards and the fact that it's showing up in the reverse, there could be some kind of betrayal occurring within your friend group. Thank you so much for joining me for this video. I hope that it helps you understand more about the tarot and how to read cards together with each other, how to use the context of the symbolism to clearly illustrate the meanings. If you liked this video, please like, share, subscribe, tell your friends, and leave me comments down below about what you liked. And I look forward to seeing you again